This time around, the big one in the kit, and Jack is going to go through this. It's listed as the RKO Grand, one of the great theater chains back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and I guess beyond. Very Art Deco, very retro, quite large, and quite unusual in many aspects. And Jack is going to go page by page with you on this part of the Delancey Street kit.
Hi, this is Jack here, and we're going to be discussing the Rio Grande Theater, the Art Deco Theater.
Not the Rio Grande, the RKO Grand.
Oh, that's it, isn't it? It's not the other side of the river. We're going to do the RKO Grand. We're going to do it page by page, as we've done with the others. So if we start and look at our directions, pull out the RKO Grand. There's a front page here, shows a picture of it. Gives you a little bit about the particular theater. And so that's the first page. We're going to zip over, and the next 2 pages are your part sheets, which are all numbered. Show you the parts, what they're used as and numbered as.
Actually, Jack, the next 4 pages.
Right, next 4 pages
there you
are
go.
all parts, depending upon what they're cut out of and where to find them, and whether they're cardboard or whether they're task board or whether they're laser board. Then we flip over 1 more page, and we've got a bunch of what we call reference photos. And that's basically, as we built the theater, we took photographs so we could have an idea of, show you guys basically how we did it, and some suggestions on what they look like when they're done.
Now these pictures basically are done farther along, but they are in color, and we wanted to feature them all in one area. So if you wanted a color reference or close-up shots of the finished model, these are kind of more or less the sub-assemblies as they were farther along, as opposed to the interior bracing, which comes a little bit later in the in this booklet, the way it's laid out.
Yeah, as you're working along, you can reference back to these pictures. If you want to see before you start to do a certain section, you can reference back to these pictures and give you an idea of what you're going to end up doing. So after we go on to the next page, it says interior bracing and wall sub-assemblies. It shows you the interior bracing for the theater. There are setback dimensions on these and what they call tick marks. You want to follow those and make sure your setbacks that show in the drawing are adhered to, because if you don't, they're not going to fit together right, or the piece of sidewall isn't going to fit on it right. So follow those dimensions. The other thing we mentioned before, if you go to the other video that talks about our brick material, they talk about using a 50-50 water and white glue mix to paint the whole bricks front and back to give it more stability, gives it a little more strength. So you want to do that actually before you pull them out of the holder. Basically, don't cut them out before you do the actual putting on of the glue. And it tells you then after that you want to make sure you cut them all out. And it tells you to cut them from the back and not the front. That gives you a little more stability also. Then they talk about once you get these bracing pieces done, then you go into your sub-assemblies. The next page shows the marquee. So anything you see in green and black is actually the black and gold. So you want to find those pieces, and you're going to basically follow the assembly. It's pretty straightforward. If you're going to put the lighting kit in, this is the time to do the lighting kit, because once the marquee is together, you can't get the lights inside the pieces. So this is a time to put the lighting kit in, which is available from us with this kit. And it goes together pretty straightforward. It shows you a picture halfway down that shows how the LEDs go in and where the marquee lights go. So you want to get those in before you actually put this whole assembly together. Once you have the wooden pieces together and you've got your LEDs in it, you're going to start with putting in your marquee movie titles, basically. And we gave you a couple there to figure out what area you're going to do. So they're basically a wraparound. I used a little bit of tacky glue to just touch on the edges and put them in. Same thing with the acetate. I used tacky glue because I don't like to use ACC on clear material because sometimes it will fog it. So I just used a little tacky glue on the edges, put on with a pin, wrapped it around and held it tight till it dried. The last thing is the, I guess it wraps around the very front piece, number 38, of the marquee, and you want to pre-paint that before you put that on, because the rest of it's going to be really hard to paint. So you want to pre-paint those little pieces, and that bends right around, and you want to hold it back. You can use some elastic bands to hold it in place. It works, hold it really good while you when you put them on.
Now there's also a number 48, Jack, that is the special plastic material that we've engraved that has to also follow the contour of the marquee on the below it.
Yeah, near the top you'll see number 48. They have a little 3 straight lines that curve down. You want to lightly bend those with your finger. You don't want to go crazy. You got to bend them just a little piece, and they're going to end up right here on the marquee, and they fit into a slot. So you've got to bend them to the angle of the slot. So you want to drop that right in.
And they can be very brittle.
Yes.
So you want to take your time doing this. It's like bending the bottom of a KD coupler. You just don't want to bend it up and out of
Go
position.
slow. Take your time. Bend it slowly, and drop it in the holes.
So that sub-assembly by itself is something that once it's done, Jack, you just put aside, right?
Yeah, you're going to take that top piece, the RKO piece that you built on the top section of it, and it's going to drop into the slot on the major marquee piece. That's pretty straightforward. You want to do as much of painting ahead of time as you can before you put your pieces together. That's so much easier.
It's the kind of project that you can spend an evening just doing this particular part, and then put it aside and then just work on the next particular part, and when the time comes, everything goes together.
Yeah. You're going to work on this building a lot of sub-assemblies, and then you put the sub-assemblies together. So as we turn the page, we're going to go to the facade assembly. That's this whole section up here, the top facade right down to the edge of the marquee. We painted a single color with some variation, a little bit of weathering, but not much, to give it a kind of overall, with just the red stripe, to give it a nice horizontal look. You can paint it whatever colors you like. If you're going to Art Deco, they were kind of pinks and blues. If you go back to the reference photos in the page, it does show you a blue one that we did. That's basically, if you look at the sub-assembly of the facade assembly, you'll see that the pieces are numbered. And what you do is you paint each of the numbers a different color, working your fan from the darkest to lightest, or lightest to darker, whichever you like. And basically then you're going to glue one on top of the other, which shows you right in the picture. You lay them on top of each other, glue them up, and your sub-assemblies basically goes pretty well straightforward right together.
Now this was a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle. I know when I built our version of it here, part of one of the prototypes that I had built. So the best thing to do is don't assume that anything goes anywhere.
Right. Try it.
Try it, make
Before
sure
you
it
glue
fits, because once you glue it, it's going to stay glued.
You're trying to get this fan effect. That's what you're trying to do. You got a fan effect here, you got a fan effect, even right to the edges, it's all fan effect. So one gets smaller. So if you're going to go with colors, you can go dark to light, or you can go light to dark. It all depends.
What color did you use on this one, Jack? Do you remember?
This, maybe sandstone color. That happens to be it has a pinkish tint to it, but it's not really pink.
Now number 8, the larger part that's the very back of this, is actually a different material than the overlays. So it actually has a granular, concrete kind of a feel to it. And where this is much slicker, and it's even if you paint everything the same color as we have here, you actually are achieving 2 different textures on the front of this.
You're going to get a texture like stucco on the back, and then the fan pieces are done in laser board, so they're nice smooth finish. So you're going to get a change in shadow and light just because of the different textures.
Now before we continue with this video, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and discuss building the actual ticket office. Here again, yet another sub-assembly.
Right.
The first one being the marquee, the second one being the facade, and the third one will be the ticket office in just a moment.